Ariella LaBelle, Executive Director of Research at 6 Degrees. Today I'd like to share 3 helpful tips to keep in mind when transforming a market research report into a presentation. But first, a quick history lesson I like to call the Tomes to Twitter evolution. About 20 years ago, market research study results looked like this. To understand research findings meant sitting down and reading a tome. Then we took a small step up with PowerPoint clip art, followed by the ubiquitous smart art, and finally, something changed. Just like FedEx and more recently Amazon changed the definition of fast package delivery, Twitter and other social media reset our expectations for fast information delivery. So slowly but surely, our attention spans have been recalibrated to expect 30-second bite-sized bursts with pretty pictures. So if you're trying to communicate complex and detailed information like findings from a study or pitching a client on a new idea, it's critical to think in terms of what today's Twitterfied audience wants to see, a succinct and visual story that they can easily consume. Now there's a lot to giving great presentations. I'm just going to touch on a couple of tips specific to what you see on screen, whether it's PowerPoint or whatever you use, that I think you'll find really interesting. Number 1. Understand how our brains process information. It's a simple concept, but hard for some to accept that less is actually more. Sometimes the intuitive thought is that in order to convey a compelling or convincing point to our audience, we need to bombard them with evidence. The reality is this, borrowing from one of my favorite lessons from Chip and Dan Heath's Made to Stick. You say 10 things, you say nothing. You need to protect that white space. When you do that, it sharpens your audience's focus. White space helps isolate key ideas. Otherwise, their eyes don't know where to look. You'll actually have a clearer, more compelling, and resonant message if you say less. One way to get more white space is to toss out the text. Our brain can process pictures up to 10,000 times more quickly than text. Use colors, metaphors, infographics, and other visual cues to convey your ideas more quickly. Please don't bury the key takeaways in unnecessary abundance. That's not being thorough or thoughtful. In fact, it's rude. Think about it. You're not informing your audience. You're vomiting on them. Here are a couple more interesting facts. Our brains prefer symmetry. Balance is familiar, so it's easier to process. In interior decorating, symmetrical rooms are more often viewed as restful and peaceful because we don't have to work as hard to figure out the use and flow of the space. Psychological studies have shown that people with more symmetrical faces are perceived to be more attractive than those who are not. So keep in mind your slide's symmetry. Related to this is what's called the rule of odds. The theory is that the human eye is naturally drawn to the center of an image. When a subject is framed by an even number of objects, our brain needs to find something to anchor to before going on to figure out the rest of the image. This ultimately causes a delay in our understanding. Odd numbers allow the eye to flow more naturally through the image. Okay, I promised 3 tips, and that first one kind of seemed like 3 right there. But these next 2 are pretty quick, and they better be because I know I'm coming close to hitting your attention span limit. Number 2, Framestorm. Now, I didn't come up with the word, but I like it. Presentation of market research findings just can't get from good to great if the analysis to report process is a solitary activity by a moderator digging through the data and typing away at a computer. First, before jumping in, it's important to frame the high-level story. Create a detailed outline that covers off on all the study objectives. And then merge that with a brainstorm. Talk it out with your team and your client. Diverse perspectives almost always lead to a better end product. At 6 Degrees, our team takes a structured approach to discuss takeaways. We figure out the read between the lines insights, and we leverage our in-house graphic designers to creatively brainstorm the visual layout. Also important, collaborate with your client on work in process drafts, so there are no surprises with the final result. And number 3, go get inspired. Keep your eyes open for design inspiration in non-traditional places. Go watch a TED Talk, do a random Google search on infographics, take notice of elaborate high-fashion window displays, pick up gadgets at a toy store, take a walk through an art museum or a botanical garden. Stepping away enables you to step out and uncover novel ideas. Now remember, this is an evolution. To keep moving forward, you need to keep learning and sharing and seeing. So speaking of sharing, I'd like to hear about your ideas. Please share your thoughts and share this with others to keep the conversation going. Let's find ways that market research can truly evolve from thinking in terms of the tomes of yesteryear to becoming today's insightful storytellers.